People call me self-centered, but that's enough about them. Today, I'm going to recap a 2010 action crime film called Undisputed 3: Redemption. The movie began after Yuri Boyka, the former defending prison fight champion, suffered a broken knee after losing a fight against George Chambers a few years ago. Because of the serious injury, the mighty Boyka is now looked down upon, even despised by Markov and the guards, who make him a prison cleaner. Even though Boyka is no longer a fighter, mixed martial arts matches are still being held at Chornya Cholmy prison, with Vladimir Sykov as the strongest fighter, of course, sponsored by Gaga. The mafia boss was also Boyka and Chambers' promoter. After the fight, Boyka, who now looks very different, with long hair and a bushy beard, is mopping the prison floor when Gaga and Markov pass by. One of Gaga's subordinates, who recognized Boyka from his limp walk, then offered him a bill, which he immediately rejected. Meanwhile, Gaga has apparently expanded his prison tournament business into an inter-prison martial arts tournament called the Prison Spets Competition, PSC, which gathers the best prison fighters worldwide to compete for prizes in the form of erasing all criminal records and early release. When Gaga told Boyka about the inter-prison martial arts tournament and that he would have a preliminary round at Chornya Cholmy prison, Boyka expressed his desire to join the tournament, especially after he failed to get parole. But Gaga turned it down because he judged Boyka's knee condition that didn't allow him to join the fight. Because Boyka was so eager to breathe freedom, he began to train himself, in earnest to get his knee back in shape so he could fight again. After that, he cut his hair and trimmed his thick beard. A few days later, just after the current reigning champion, Vladimir Sykov defeated his opponent in the final round of the prison tournament. Boyka then threw water at the man and challenged him to a fight. Sykov, whose anger had already flared because of Boyka's presumptuous actions, immediately accepted the challenge. Boyka's fight against Sykov was short, and Boyka quickly defeated Sykov, thus becoming Russia's representative for the PSC event. Returning to the ring and tasting victory once again apparently returned Boyka's fighting spirit, which had long been excluded from the fight that had catapulted his name. Shortly after, Boyka was transferred to the Gorgon prison in Georgia. He was joined by 8 prison fighters from various countries who would later fight each other in the PSC martial arts tournament. The fighters were then gathered and given directions by Warden Kuss. The prison fighters who participated in the tournament, besides Boyka, were Krates from Croatia, Dupont from France, Mavros from Greece, Lomchai from North Korea, Silva from Brazil, Turbo from America, and Dolor from Colombia. When directed to their respective cells, they saw the officers were cleaning a large area in the prison that would be used as a battle arena. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Gaga and 2 other mobsters, Farnati and Rezo, discuss betting issues, where Rezo suggests that they bet on only one fighter who has the greatest potential for victory, namely Dolor, who is also Rezo's mainstay fighter. However, Gaga, who bet on Boyka's victory, and Farnati, who bet on Turbo's victory, kept their respective mainstay fighters because they believed in Boyka and Turbo's fighting abilities. The next day, the prison fighters are taken to a stone mining area, where fighters from other countries are forced to do hard labor under the watchful eye of the guards, while Dolor just sits back and reads a book. Apparently, the other fighters were only allowed to train to prepare for the fight for an hour each day, and still had to do long hours of heavy work in the rock quarry, while Dolor was treated so special with private sparring sessions and not allowed to do heavy work. While in the mines, Boyka gets into an argument with Turbo, who he thinks talks too much and does little. When the fighters return to prison for an hour-long training session, Dolor is approached by Kuss, who gives him a regimen of performance-enhancing drugs. Not long after, the day of the tournament arrived. The audience seemed so excited and risked a large amount of money to support their mainstay fighters, which would actually increase the profits of Gaga and the other mafias. The first fight was Silva's fight against Mavros, which he won. Next up was Turbo's fight, which easily beat Croatia's Krates, making Farnati jump for joy that his fighter won. The fight continued, and this time it was Boyka's turn to face a fighter from France, Dupont. Again he scored a victory in the ring, and this time Markov, the guards and all the prisoners at the Chornya Chalmy prison are supported Boyka, and seemed to cheer when he won the fight and advanced to the semifinals. The final battle pitted Dolor and Lam Chai, where Dolor could get his victory quickly. Thanks to their victory, Boyka, Turbo, Dolor, and Silva advanced to the next round. Meanwhile, the defeated fighters will be taken away from there. Thinking that they would be sent back to their respective countries, Kuss ordered his men to execute the fighters who failed to advance to the semifinals. The next day, when the fighters returned to the rock quarry to do hard labor, Boyka got into another dispute with Turbo, which led to their fight, so they were thrown into a very narrow solitary cell. After they were finally released due to some manipulations by Gaga and Farnati, Boyka and Turbo then revealed the forced labor they had to do and the preferential treatment Dolor received in prison. After hearing firsthand about the prison's treatment of their top fighters, the two mafia bosses went straight to Kuss in his office. Upon arrival, they met with PSC mastermind Rezo, who explained that the tournament has always been fixed to ensure the highest profit at the lowest risk. The forced labor is deliberately done to physically weaken the other fighters so Dolor can win the fight. Rezo then suggested that Gaga and Farnati cash out all their assets and place their bets on Dolor, who can be a winner and has been guaranteed by Rezo to get a double profit. Realizing that the loyalty to their fighters only extends to their payout, Gaga and Farnati agree to this arrangement. Meanwhile, Boyka and Turbo again get into bickering in the rock quarry, but then find some common ground within each of them. As time goes by, Boyka and Turbo slowly develop trust in each other and focus their attention on beating Dolor in the tournament. After learning that the PSC tournament has been orchestrated by the mobsters who may have determined the winner, Boyka and Turbo begin to use hard work in rock mining as part of their training to increase their physical strength. One day, when Boyka lifts a boulder, Turbo realizes that he has a knee injury. He then gave him a pinch of the root of an herbal plant, which is believed to relieve the pain from his injury. Boyka, who saw the tattoo on Turbo's body, then asked about it. Turbo revealed that the tattoo was inspired by his son and his daughter. When Turbo asked Boyka about his reason for fighting, he says that God has given him a gift by becoming the best fighter in the world, so he must fight and deserve respect. Meanwhile, elsewhere, it turns out that Gaga has doubled the bet according to Rezo's suggestion. In the semifinals, Boyka will face Silva. The battle between the two was fierce, but Boyka was finally able to knock Silva down with a triangular punch. After being declared the winner and entitled to advance to the final round, Boyka helped Silva to his feet and praised him for a good fight. But not long after that, Silva was executed. Realizing that Boyka and Turbo are stronger than expected, Rezo and Warden Kuss devise a plan and order the prison guards to beat Turbo to a pulp. When he walked to his cell, Boyka was very surprised to see Turbo's battered condition. Meanwhile, Dolor confronts Boyka by insulting him, calling him the toilet champion, and threatening to kill Turbo in the semifinal fight. Boyka remained calm, did not respond to Dolor, and increased the portion of his training, especially working on his knees. On the other hand, Dolor is also seen training hard for tomorrow night's fight. Boyka couldn't bear to see Turbo, who was still forcing himself to train even though he was seriously injured. The next day, when the prisoners are brought in for the next round of hard labor, Boyka tries to convince Turbo to escape instead of confronting Dolor in his injured state. Knowing that Turbo was once a soldier, Boyka devises a plan so Turbo can escape into the forest, where the security is lightest and survive long enough to eventually get in touch with the black market. Turbo initially disagreed, but then another prisoner reveals that the losing fighter will be executed, so he finally changes his mind. Boyka tries to break Turbo's chains, but is caught by the guards, which causes the two to have to fight the guards long enough to get the key. After being freed, Turbo immediately ran into the forest, while the guards immobilized Boyka with weapons. Boyka is returned to prison, where he is confronted by Rezo, Warden Kuss, and also Gaga, who reveals to him that he has changed the bet and will fully support Dolor, who has already won. Knowing that he has lost all support, Boyka commits to crushing the bets of Gaga and the Mafia by defeating Dolor in the final round. The final battle began. Because Turbo managed to escape, Dolor went straight to the final round and fought Boyka. The spectators and the mobsters were betting heavily on this fight, where they were almost all betting on Dolor's victory. The fight between Dolor and Boyka was intense, where Dolor took the lead with his very fast and sharp block and hand attacks, supported by his greater physique than Boyka. Knowing that Boyka suffered a severe knee injury, Dolor did not waste the opportunity when Boyka kicked him. He caught Boyka's knee and seriously injured him. Dolor did not stop there and continued to attack Boyka's knee. Losing his kicking ability and agility, Boyka recovered, relying on his endurance and pain tolerance while surviving several devastating blows. When everyone thought the fight was over when Boyka was kicked out of the ring, Boyka, who catches a glimpse of the mop and bucket used for sopping up blood after the bouts, which bears a striking resemblance to the ones he used during his training, then returns into the ring before the 10 count. He then takes the blood-soaked pad off the mop and ties it around his knee. He begins using a new style mixing in elements of grappling, dirty boxing headbutts and elbows, wrestling, and wushu. He finally overthrew Dolor by breaking his shin and breaking Gaga's doubts and everyone who thought that he could not win the fight against Dolor. In his despair over losing a bet and losing a lot of money, Farnati then went to the office of the prison's warden. He then shoots Rezo, but the man is eventually killed by Kuss. Despite winning the tournament, Boyka is not allowed to go free because the guards hadn't found Turbo yet. Since Boyka is responsible for Turbo's escape, Kuss says that Turbo will remain free while Boyka will be transferred back to his original prison in Russia, to which Boyka replies that he doesn't care at all. Like other prison fighters who have lost, Boyka will also be executed. But then he is saved by Turbo. Boyka and Turbo then headed to the car, where Gaga was already waiting in it. It turns out that Gaga never followed Rezo's advice and instead doubled the bet on Boyka's victory. Gaga reveals to Boyka that he always knew Boyka was the best and strongest fighter in the world, especially when he was angry. So he risked all his money for Boyka's victory all along and tricked the other mobsters. Not only that, but he also went further by saving and hiding Turbo when he managed to escape. After that, Gaga gifted Boyka a suitcase of money for his victory in the PSC tournament this time. Before parting ways, Boyka finally revealed his first name, Yuri, to Turbo. On the other hand, Turbo finally admits that his real name is Jericho, without realizing that Boyka has a special appreciation for religious references. In gratitude, Boyka thanked Turbo for freeing him. Turbo then challenges him to a future fight, and Boyka accepts his challenge. The film ends by showing Boyka getting out of the car, then walking with a bag full of money to his freedom while laughing happily. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.